Shalom, shalom, shalom to the family. What's going on to my brother, Chris Coleman? Long time no see. Shalom to you, brother. What's going on? Shalom to everybody. Shalom. This is definitely a live that it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be a good live. Recently, one of our brothers, Carl, Israel Doctrine. I don't know our brother Carl. I don't know him personally. I heard of him, but mutually, I have some brothers that I do know personally that I rock with, who runs with him. They're part of Israel of God, and so the brother Carl. I hope this video will get to him and whatnot. This is not a video to bash our brother. I believe he's a very balanced brother. And all them brothers over Israel of God are balanced. Brother Mikael, as well as Brother Azza, and the rest of them brothers over there. They some balanced brothers. But I want to, I received the inbox. Shalom to everybody. We're in a group. I have an inbox group called the B.O.O.M Academy, where we go into a lot of different things. We stay up to date with a lot of things, events. We do teachings out of there. History was a group that the Most High gave me an idea to create with a lot of, everybody in there is balanced, balanced Israelites. And so we just keep up with a lot of things that goes on in the urban apologetics, all kind of stuff going on in our group that we have. And so one of the brothers, Brother JT, he put this video in there, and so we all kind of was checking it out. I checked it out. I've been following Dr. Brown. I've been following him for a couple of years, even when I was in leadership in the Christian church and whatnot. And I still continue to follow him. I think that Dr. Brown is a very educated man. I don't have anything like bad to say about Dr. Brown. I think scholastically he should be respected and for his knowledge. I also believe in respecting people that are of age. So he's an older man. He believes in Christ, whether we get into skin tone or not. You know, that's not here for me to debate about anything like that. We're dealing with color, anything like that. But from his understanding, you know, he's a Jewish man who is Ashkenazi. And so what's going on? Shalom to my sister Bougie Mark. Shalom to you as well, sis. Again, I've always held a level of people who are in the field in their areas, who handle certain things doctrinally, scholastically, or archaeology. I may not agree with doctrinal principles. I may not agree with a lot of things that they agree with doctrinally. Some of the things that I don't agree with a lot of people doctrinally, a lot of those things don't really it's not a salvation issue for me. And so, Shalom, what's going on, Brother JT? Brother JT is the one who dropped the video in our group. So I looked at it and checked it out. And I'm just kind of giving an overview. So I want y'all to understand before I talk about this interview and some things. I want y'all to know my position on what's going on, Brother Moon Yah. What's up, brother? I just want y'all to know that I don't have no, like, when it comes to Dr. Brown, again, man, the brother's been in the field as far as study. He should be respected in his lane. All right, in his lane. Shalom, Minister Israel, Brother Tiger Low. What's on? Shalom. He should be respected for his lane. And I think sometimes what happens is when we get out of our lane, sometimes we can veer off and we really don't present things or articulate things well. I'm not saying that he doesn't. I'm just saying He should be respected as someone that I've watched, again, when I was even in the Christian church as a leader. The man is should be well respected. He is well respected for his understanding. And again, he is Jewish and whatnot. And many of us who are Hebrews, we understand that there can be a difference between someone who is Jewish and an ancient Israelite, and that has been documented by several people. So what I want to do is I want to look at the interview. I kind of want to let y'all see it. I'll say this. I'll say that Dr. Brown's interview, it was probably, when it come down to the questions and how he talked to Brother Carl, I think his approach was fair. I don't think he was one who was trying to trap Carl. You know, you have some people out here who are apologists. You know, they have questions where they have leading questions or questions just try to trap you or whatever like that. But I think Dr. Brown's questions was very fair. I think he was asking questions, even though he didn't agree with those questions. It wasn't like they were traps where he was trying to set for Carl. It wasn't like he was trying to make Brother Carl look bad or nothing like that. I just think it was a general conversation. Shalom, Pastor Kim. Shalom, Pop Curry. I don't think it was anything of that nature. I just think that we have to understand, and here's my position. We have to get to a point where we are resolved in who we are. We've had videos, we've had archaeological evidence, we've had DNA, we had books, we had people who are historians from the black side and the white side. We've had people from the Jewish side. How much more do we need? Do we have to continue to go on people's shows to try to prove something that we should already be resolved in? Why do we have to keep doing this? There's nothing that you can say or present to get folks to believe you. The only time people will believe you are those that the Spirit of the Most High opens their heart to receive it. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they don't accept it or receive it or not. How many movies are we going to put out? How many videos are we going to do? How many books are we going to write? We have hundreds of information. And I'm just trying to really get an understanding. And this is not at Brother Carl or anybody of that anybody who's done recent interviews or movies or videos. I'm just trying to get us to see, when are we going to? The more we do this, we actually keep the ratings going, because the thing is that Hebrew Israelites, whether you believe that they're black people, whether you believe that they're the Negroes in America or scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, whether you believe it or not, nobody's going to believe until you actually believe, until you actually are resolved in who you are. And I think that that's the point. I think that we don't actually really believe it, to be honest with you. That's why we're going to the ends of the earth, and we're put out everything to force people to say, see, here's it right here. You need to believe this. I'm going to make you believe it. That's never been something that we should have even gotten entangled in. Okay, we've declared it. We have history. We have you have prophecy. You have those who are researchers from both sides. You have researchers from both sides. We don't need no more research. We need faith. That's who we need. We actually need that. And so we're going to look at this interview. We're going to look at it. And there's tons and tons of interviews. People ask me to come on. The last interview that I did, or the last conversation that I had, there's a brother wanted to debate me about, do I believe in the deity of Christ? So there was one sister that said that I didn't believe in the deity of Christ. And then the brother wanted to bring me on to talk about it. I did go on his show or go on his live and talk about it. But when I came on the live, all he wanted to do was talk about me proving that I was an Israelite. That's not the subject of the conversation. Why go down a rabbit trail or take debate of that? Because that is the ultimate subject of today. That is the subject of the day in the black church. That is the subject of the day amongst white evangelicals. That's the subject of the day of apologists. People are scrambling, and that's all they talking about. Because you have a young generation of people, and some of the elders as well, that are coming to a place of saying, hey, listen, man, I'm sick and tired of living the way I'm living. I'm not going to live that way. I'm not going to live the way of just saying, I accept Christ as my savior, and then I can just do what I want to do, or I can just do this, do that, or I'm dying from colon cancer. I'm dying from all of these different things. I'm going to return back to eating healthy, eating according to what the dietary law says. There's people that are tired of that. And then they are getting to the point where, oh, well, you want to return to that for bondage? No, I don't want to return that for bondage. I want to live. I want to live. There's a balance in understanding that. But that's the conversation of the day. Everybody is talking about Hebrew Israelites. And here's the thing. They have a right to. And we also have a right to not get entangled into the stuff that they're talking about. Because ultimately, if your focus is waking your people up, as we declare, then why are we going on people's shows to prove to them something that they don't believe, have no intentions on believing? It makes no sense to me. It has to come to a time where we're done with that. We're continuing to feed it. And we can't blame nobody but ourselves. They actually don't want to debate you. What they want to do is continue to push the narrative. That's what they want. And you know what? We're so hungry at proving people wrong to where we're actually getting caught up in the trap. We're actually getting caught up in the trap because I want to prove to you that you're not the people of the book and that I am. You're not resolved in who you are. You want to prove something to somebody else. That's just like a gang member or somebody that needs to say, hey, if you down with us, then you need to prove that you down with us and go out there and shoot somebody. And you run right out there and shoot somebody, and you find yourself in a bad predicament. And then you try to plead your innocence and nobody believes you. We have to get away from this stuff. If you say you Israel, you don't have to go around telling everybody you Israel. Just walk like Israel. And the Spirit of the Most High will reveal to the people that you Israel. This is simple. This is very simple. We shouldn't have to go around and prove something. If you say you are, then just be it. Let the Holy Spirit, let the Ruach declare that. Your obligation is not to go on people's show and try to prove anything. The scripture says, okay, give a reason of your hope. Your hope is Christ. Your hope is not your heritage. And this is the problem. And we're trying to get people to believe something that they're not going to believe. Period. It's a waste of time. You say you Israel, you believe you Israel, you got tons of books, you got scientific evidence. I don't just run around slinging my DNA information around. If somebody asked me to come on the show, you say you a limber, or you say you got limber in your family, or you got the Cohen gene, or you say this, you say that. Yes, okay, cool. Well, prove it. No. Why do I have to prove it to you? Because even when I show you, and I've showed several people my DNA, they still try to find a way around. Oh, well, it's a waste of time. I have no time for that. I have no time for that. People dying and going to hell out here. Okay? People ask you, Israelite? Yes, I'm an Israelite. Okay, next. That's it. That's it. That is it. You're Israelite? Yes. Next. Do you want to know anything about it? They say no. Fine. Keep moving. Stop wasting your time on things that are not of the utmost importance and trying to prove something to people. They're not going to believe it. Only those who want to believe it is going to believe it. And then once you believe, then the next step is what? The next step is what? The next step is what? Don't get stuck playing the game. It takes you off the mission. You woke up, you embrace your heritage, now preach the gospel. So we're going to get into the interview. Okay, I want to get into this interview. What's going on, Brother Michael, Elder Michael Holloway? Grace to you, sir. Shalom. We're going to get into, all right. Again, I'm going to get it. Those of y'all just not joining. Again, man, you know, as a leader in the Christian church, before I started a Messianic Hebrew congregation, those of y'all just not joining, Dr. Brown is somebody that I respect, this scholarly and whatnot, but there's just this narrative that's going on within in the world amongst theologians and different people, and pastors. And here's the thing, I want to say this because this weekend I was able to go to Fairview Baptist Church and teach heritage, and the pastor of the church, as a matter of fact, the brother who brought me there, it's his father's church. It made it easier for him to understand the perspective because of how because of the presentation, one, but two was the concern of, are you taking my Jesus from me? Are you taking my Jesus from me? Once he got an understanding, all right, then he was able to understand why we keep the commandments, because it's an heritage thing. If you're going to say you're an Israelite, it's your customary duty. The same way Paul kept the feast in the New Testament, it's his customary duty as a Hebrew to keep the feast. And so once you get an understanding of these things and you really get into it and you really break it down by the Spirit, and people get an understanding of it, then they understand. They're looking at other people and they're basing and painting a brush on the whole Israelite community. This is why we have to be careful by how we dialogue and how we entertain certain conversations, so that way we don't get caught up in the snares and the trap of the enemy. Because ultimately, when you embrace your heritage, you still got to go through Christ. You still got to go through Hamashiach. You still have to go through, okay? You still have to go through these things, all right? You still have to go through him at the end of the day, okay? So I don't want to continue to talk long. I just want to set up there, just give you that, man, because it's very vital and important in this day and age, that we're very careful and use wisdom with how we move. Hamashiach did not entertain everything. When the Pharisees was coming to him by question, sometimes he didn't even respond. You don't have to respond to everybody that is throwing stuff at you. Okay? And if you do respond, always make sure that you talk as Christ taught. You deal with it how he dealt with it. Study his character. Oftentimes, your character would destroy traps. Your character oftentimes would destroy traps. People can't run up on you with certain foolishness because you're not going to entertain it. So there has to be a maturation process that takes place, okay? Now, let's look at this. We're going to get into this, all right? Because I want to kind of look at this real quick. Let me see here. All right, we're going to look at this interview. So let me fix this. All right, so we're going to go on YouTube. You can look it up, the video. I'm going to play some of it, and then I'm going to play some of it, and then I'm also go to some of the video. I'm going to use two videos. I'm going to use the interview that he did, and then I'm also going to use an interview that he did with Harry Rosenberg, which is another Jewish rabbi, okay? Because I want to show you that Dr. Brown, it's not so much that he's asking the questions. I think that he's an educated man. He knows certain things. But I think that sometimes you can continue to push the wrong narrative, okay? All right. So let's look at this. Let's get into his interview with Brother Carl. All right. Shalom to everybody just tuning in.
Well, you hear that music? That means it's Thoroughly Jewish Thursday here on the Line of Fire. All right. A few months ago, I got a note from a colleague of mine who works with CARM, Christian Apologetic Network, major website, carm.org. And he asked me what I knew about the Black Hebrew Israelites, and it was very little. A lot of it went back to a confrontation I had over 20 years ago on the streets of New York City when I challenged them. And it was a pretty wild scene. I described it in the first hour. And this brother said to me that when he was speaking at a conference and was speaking to a lot of inner city pastors, they said, this is actually a bigger issue than you may realize. You may not see it in social media, the internet so much, but it's a deeper issue.
Stop right there. Again, as I told you, I have relationships with a lot of Christian pastors, okay? I get phone calls and inboxes and emails from a lot of Christian pastors that I still have relationships with, and as well as a lot of new pastors that hit me up because they either see me on social media or I get referred by another Christian pastor because of the internet and because there's either someone that is a youth pastor, an assistant pastor, a son, or a member child who's watching YouTube, and all of a sudden it becomes chaotic. Whether they're challenging the pastor, whether they're disrespecting the elders or whatever, when it comes down to this awakening. So this is a big thing in what he's talking about, especially in the urban church. Because of the fact that there are many people who are basically just walking away from the urban church. Okay? And many of them get out here and actually, to be honest with you, becomes 10 times more of a devil than they was when they was in the church. Because of who they listen to and who they follow. It all depends, okay? It all depends on who they follow, okay? So let's get at this understanding. Let's check this out, all right? So we're going to listen to this. I'm going to play it, all right? and so we can get some understanding of what's going on. All right, so let's listen to it. But I just want to stop there and let you guys kind of hear the concern behind the scenes and why it's important for us to have brothers out here, okay, to be able to articulate what is going on. And so that way there can be a dialogue, a understanding, a bridge, or whatever you want to call it, okay, between their concerns, because they think we crazy or they think we don't went off on the deep end. All right. So there has to be balanced voices, all right, that can be able to bring clarity, to give understanding to them. Because to be honest with you, after you have a conversation with many of these pastors, many of them say, after they talk to someone with the spirit and that's balanced, they say, wait a minute, I always knew something, but the way I saw it or way it was presented, it caused me to not want to even have the conversation about it. Okay, so let's play. Let's keep playing.
So he began to research things, look into them, and we said, well, let's talk about it on the air. And in point of fact, on my end, as a Jewish man who's a follower of Jesus, I can't say exactly why, but I always felt a special kinship with my black brothers and sisters.
Wait a minute. Listen to what he just said. He said he's always felt a kinship, okay, with his black brothers and sisters. Now that says something right there in itself. Dr. Brown, again, he's a highly educated man. All right. Dr. Brown is no way illiterate at all. Historically, now he can play around with the narrative. You know, he can go whatever. But again, I don't like the different, let's just keep playing. Let's keep playing.
You know, I joke about it when I preach in some of the churches that, you know, white churches, we preach on the downbeat instead of we clap on the downbeat instead of the upbeat, you know, as a drummer, you know, just rhythm and soul, you know, the vitality and the just, but I mean, that's just a silly little thing I've said. It goes far beyond that. Maybe that we're both peoples who've been oppressed and freed slaves and so on. So when I see in Jewish society negative attitudes towards blacks, or when I see in black society negative attitudes towards Jews, that's something that concerns me. So I have a guest on the air with me, Carl Albert, and he is the founder of Israel Doctrine Entertainment. Carl, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us on the air today, sir.
Peace. How you doing?
Doing very well. Could you explain first the name of your organization, what that actually means and what you do?
Well, I rap. So the name is based upon the entertainment company that I came up with to deal with what you're talking about today, the Israelites. Mm-hmm. So the terminology came about when I was doing a publishing company for ASCAP. And I was thinking, what's a good name? So I came up with Israel Doctrine, a terminology that I came up with to basically state what the Bible is to me. It's Israel Doctrine, based on the fact that the God of Israel in Isaiah 49 is called Israel. Daniel 9 and 19 states that the people in the land was named after him. So the teachings are named after him now, due to the fact that I came up with the terminology just to say the Bible is the doctrine of Israel, based upon our God and our surname.
All right, and on your website, you're careful to say, although some exterior similarities may be found between other groups and ourselves, beneath the surface there are key fundamentals that have caused us to be accurately unique and separate. Do you consider yourself part of the Black Hebrew Israelites, or is that a very mixed question for you?
It's a mixed question. I would consider myself a part of them, but the terminology I really don't use because it's a gumbo of words trying to describe. I would say I'm a part of the nation of Israel, which is being very technical and stating that that's my nationality.
Which is facts. Here's the underlining issue. Okay. None of us call ourselves Black Hebrew. It's disrespectful. And these are the things that I'm talking about. There's certain trigger words. It's almost the same way. We feel the same way of when they say people make statements that's anti-Semitic. But they continue to use the same terms. And I'm not talking about just Dr. Brown. I'm not talking about, this ain't a white thing. There are Black brothers and sisters who oppose Israelites that continues after they've been told. That's not what to us, that's like saying an anti-Semitic term. It's disrespectful. And what happens is it's constantly used to draw us into a place to continue to produce the narrative that we angry. It's nothing wrong with a person getting upset about something that you continue to say that we told you not to say. That we told you not to say. And so that's the underlining issue. That's one of them, shall I say. It's no different than calling a Puerto Rican a Mexican. You want to fight, you want to get in a fight, call a Puerto Rican a Mexican and see what happens. That's painting a picture that every Hispanic person is a Mexican.
Black is a byword that's been put up on us here in America and abroad by the different languages that people use to describe us. They don't call us Israel anymore, seeing that the Lord said he would take that name away from us because he want to keep his name stay clean, and we have taken his name in vain, as some do today. So therefore, those terminologies come up for us Black Hebrew Israelites to try to describe the byword, the roots of the Israelites, which are Hebrew, and then the nation or nationality that we are truly known as in the Bible. And Jew is also a part of that, but you have the quote-unquote term Black Jew.
All right. So when I think of a Black Jew, I think of a Jew in Ethiopia.
Now stop. See, here's another problem. When I think of a Black Jew, I think of a Black Jew in Ethiopia. Dr. Brown, okay, again, is a very educated man, okay? Dr. Brown understands that at one point in time, the entire land of what we know as Africa was called Ethiopia. He knows this. So how is it far-fetched? Okay? How is it far-fetched that a person of Negroid descent or a quote-unquote African-American can't have the same blood as an Ethiopian, which they would consider Black Jews? You do understand that Israelites had children with Canaanites. You do know that Israelites had children with Ethiopians. So it's not far-fetched. And it doesn't mean that it's that much of a difference in separation. So you just can't say, when I think of a Black Jew, I think of someone from Ethiopia, but not someone that's African American. Because that wasn't even a title that we even put on ourselves. That was a title that Europeans gave us. Many of Dr. Brown's descendants. This is the underlying issue. I'm telling you, If I at some chance, if I was one being interviewed on, we're going to stop. Every single word that he says, the same way that that every single word is scrutinized with what we say, every single word will be scrutinized. Every single one of them. The interview will have to last 5 hours because every single word is going to be put on trial. That's why I don't do these type of things. And I've been trained to do that. I was blessed to be a part of a Christian church where my pastors, both of them were seminary professors and still is seminary professors. So I was blessed to be taught apologetics, hermeneutics, and all these other things. I didn't have to go to college to do it. I didn't have to go to school to do it because they trained our church on how to do these things. Dr. Brown knows this. But we got to keep pushing this narrative because of the fact that in every community, there are knuckleheads. And so you want to paint the brush without saying it that we all are still knuckleheads.
Who traces things back to the God of Israel. Do you consider me a Jew, an Israelite?
Why does it matter, Dr. Brown? Why does it matter? Why does it matter if Carl considers you, because he's done the background on Carl. They've all done the background on every Hebrew Israelite, either before they interview them. So they know what they know what they believe. So why waste the time asking the question? Because Carl believes salvation is for everyone. Israel of God don't teach salvation only for Israel. They don't teach that. And Carl is a part of them brothers over there. As a matter of fact, Vocab Malone went and sat down with them brothers. And he knows their doctrine. I'm pretty sure Michael Brown saw that interview too. Or that video too. So why ask a question? If you're searching for truth and you want truth, you don't have to ask a question to entertain your audience. You don't have to ask a question to entertain your audience. And this is another thing. We always have to understand the intent of why people say what they say. We always have to understand the intent of people's heart. The question that people ask you will also tell you the intent of their heart and their agenda. The question I would ask Dr. Brown, why? Why does it matter? You know, I believe that I don't believe in Israel only. So why does it matter? We have to cut stuff off. Don't entertain it. Because what happens, it leads you into another, it's a trap. It leads you into another question. So it's important for us to learn these things. Learn how to respond. Learn how to listen. That's another issue with Israel. We talk too much. We talk so much and we're trying to prove things so bad to where we don't even listen. And wait for the Spirit to give you your response. We react and we play right into the narrative. We walk right into the trap by our reaction instead of waiting to respond.
If you say proselytize or whatever, because
no, I mean by blood and heritage.
By blood, I would consider you an Edomite, one that took over the land and the name and the history and everything in 70 AD when Titus sacked Rome. He basically ran us out of Israel. and some of us went to Africa, as you say, the black Jews that's known there by the different, tribes and stuff that's there. They claim to a Jewish lineage. Mm-hmm. And at that time, from my knowledge, reading Obadiah and stuff, it states that Edom went in, took the land and this and that and everything. And when they did that, they took on our identity. And we became a byword and a proverb to the rest of the nation. And so that's what you hear people say when they call themselves Black Hebrew Israelites.
All right. Now, of course, I as a Jew and my people, Israel, have been persecuted and decimated and mocked and hated for centuries. So we've certainly been mistreated and been a byword. You mentioned...
See, this is what I'm talking about. The Jewish people today have never been a byword. They've not been no byword. Of course, in every nation, there are people who've been mistreated. There's people been mistreated good, and there's people who've been mistreated bad. Okay, all of these things, or shall I say, people have been treated a certain kind of way because of maybe there was revenge by another nation, or another nation decided to just overtake them. But don't sit around here and act as though the Jewish people in the land today have always been this persecuted people. They've always been the tail and not the head. All this type of stuff. So this is why you have to keep them away from that. Because the picture over in the West have been painted one type of way. When you go over to the East, that same picture ain't painted. This is why I tell brothers and sisters, listen, if you haven't traveled abroad, you haven't been to other nations, if you haven't even been to the next county over, stop talking like you got this thing down, like you've been in the other countries. If you have the opportunity to go to other countries, you'll see that the picture of what we get in the West is not the same picture, okay, over there. The history that you get over here in the West ain't the same picture that you, or the history that you get over in Eastern lands. It's not the same. And it's not the same of buying a book. You buying a book don't give you the experience of actually going in those lands. You're still limited, even with a book.
Obadiah, though, I don't follow that, because Obadiah is written well over 500 years before the events surrounding the Second Temple, and they're actually talking about what happened when the first temple was destroyed and how the Edomites mocked the Jewish people going to exile. So that's talking about something that was hundreds and hundreds of years before. There's no Edomite history after 70 AD. So I'm confused in terms of what you're saying there.
Right. When you look at the history, in 70 AD, Jerusalem was sacked. The Israelites was ran out. In 70 AD, the Edomites fell off the historical map. How could that happen, that you lose a whole nation of people? Unless they took on another identity, and then we took up on another identity, meaning there's an identity out there that's not found now, and that's the Edomites, which is Esau children.
But who said that there was? Here's what I'm missing, and I'm just trying to understand you, sir, because you've obviously thought about these issues and read them. The Edomites, they didn't fall off the chart or anything like that at all. These continued to the extent that they continue as a people. They continued as a Middle Eastern Arabic people, Arabic-speaking people, and that's where they would have been joined. But Obadiah has nothing to do with the destruction of the temple in 70. And there's no record of them doing well. I'm just looking at the history of Edom, and my field of studies was ancient Near Eastern studies. I don't see where Edom took anything over and then suddenly disappeared. I just don't see that anywhere in history before or after. I mean, it seems to be just being manufactured to suit a narrative. So that's what I'm trying to understand, sir.
So Dr. Brown says that the Edomites are the Arabs, or an Arabic-speaking people. Dr. Brown is saying that we can identify today who the Edomites are. How all of a sudden now he knows who the Edomites are when for so long apologists have said we don't know who the Edomites are. They just vanished off the face of the earth. They just ended. Now all of a sudden now there's a way of discovering who the Edomites are. Now all of a sudden we know who the Edomites are. Before, every pretty much biblical teacher will say we don't know who Edom is because Edom, their nation was destroyed as prophesied. But for some reason now, we can know who the Edomites are. They're the Arabs. They're Arabic-speaking people. Okay, what Arabic-speaking people? Because you got some black folk over there who speak Arabic too. So which one? Which one? Which nation of people in the land over in Palestine, in the so-called Middle East, which Arabic-speaking people? Because I can go over there right now. And matter of fact, you can go in different parts of Africa. You can go into the west coast of Africa, Central Africa, and you can find people that speak Arabic. So which ones? Now all of a sudden, everybody knows. Now all of a sudden, now there's a response. Whoa, no, the Edomites, we found out who they were. They're Arabic-speaking people. Well, you got black people speak Arabic. You got a mixed nation of people that speak Arabic. You got Arabs, you got those who are white, pale-looking who speak Arabic. Which ones? This is what I'm talking about, man. This stuff makes no sense. They look at every argument. They look at every argument that Israelites present, and then all of a sudden it's a narrative found for it, or it's something to find. When before they said, "Oh, we don't know who the Edomites are. They were destroyed," as the prophet said. We don't know who the Edomites are.
Okay, well, like I said, we had more time on the show because I was stated I was given a certain length of time, so I cannot get into that in depth in the time frame in which you have allowed me. But if you look at the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, you will see that Ham is the progenitor of the dark races, but not the Negro. And we know in America that the Negro is the African American or the black. And so therefore, the Zondervan Bible Dictionary states that we are not Hamitic. If we're not Hamitic, then we're Shemitic. And if we're Semitic or Shemitic, then that would mean that we fall somewhere in that genealogy line coming from Abraham also, which that's the term Hebrew come in. When you deal with Hebrew, you got Israelites, Edomites, and Ishmaelites.
Thank you. See, listen to that now. When you're dealing with the nation of Hebrews, and this is why I tell brothers and sisters all the time, there are a plethora of Hebrews. There are a plethora of Hebrews. When you go to the table of nations, in Genesis chapter number 10, when you go through the table of nations, there's only one nation that's identified as a Gentile. Even when it mentions Ham's children, it doesn't mention Ham's children as Gentiles. It mentions Japhet or Japhet as the isles of the Gentiles. When it go through Shem, it don't mention Gentiles. When it go through Ham, it don't mention Gentiles. Why? Because there are a plethora of Hebrews. Esau was a Hebrew, as he said. Everybody not an Israelite. But it's a whole plethora of Hebrews. In fact, Jacob wasn't an Israelite. The Israelites didn't come on the scene until he had children and became a nation. Abraham wasn't an Israelite. So it's important for us to understand these things. So of course, if you have someone who is an Edomite, an Israelite, or an Ishmaelite, and they all are Hebrews, which means they all are related, of course, somewhere down the line, there's going to be some form of a DNA connection. That's why that's why it's important to understand the difference between a promise and a blessing. Ishmael got blessings, but the promise wasn't to him. It was to Isaac.
Now, when you say Arab, I would say those are the Ishmaelites. When I say Israelites, I would say those are the Negroes that we know as today. And then when you say Edomites, I would say those are the ones known as Jews today. And, it's no...
All right, so you would say then that you're a descendant of Ishmael and I'm a descendant of Isaac then?
No, you're a descendant of Esau and I'm a descendant of Jacob. That's what I would say.
Ah, all right.
I want you to listen to this. Now, Carl said, and I'll give you this. Maybe Dr. Brown, maybe he didn't intend to say this. Okay, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. The next statement that he's going to say, maybe he didn't intend to say this, but he said it. Carl was trying to correct him, but he didn't get back to it. Okay, I want y'all to listen to this. What Carl said. All right, hold on.
Known as Jews today, and it's no.
All right, so you would say then that you're a descendant of Ishmael and I'm a descendant of Isaac then?
No, you're a descendant of Esau and I'm a descendant of Jacob. That's what I would say.
Ah, all right. Even though you said you trace things back to Ishmael. Got it.
No,
all right. Now,
listen to what he said. He said, so are you saying that you're a descendant of Ishmael? Which, guess what? Dr. Brown might have been okay with that. And then he said, so you would say you're a descendant of Ishmael and I'm a descendant of Isaac. And Brother Carl said, no. I said you're a descendant of Esau and I'm a descendant of Jacob. And he said, oh, okay. So you say you're a descendant of Ishmael. Okay, got it. That's not what Carl said. Dr. Brown's smart enough to know, and he can hear. He know Carl didn't say that. He know Carl didn't say that. Maybe Dr. Brown misspoke. I give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he didn't really understand. I'm gonna just give him the benefit of the doubt on this. Even though I know he's very capable and a very intellectual man to know that's not what Carl said. So that kind of give me a side eye at Dr. Brown. Okay, let's look at this.
And, it's no...
All right, so you would say then that you're a descendant of Ishmael and I'm a descendant of Isaac then?
No, you're a descendant of Esau and I'm a descendant of Jacob. That's what I would say.
Ah, all right. Even though you said you trace things back to Ishmael. Got it.
No,
all right. Now, of course, you understand, sir, that
see what Carl should have did. Carl should have immediately, I would have cut him off. He wouldn't have been able to get another word out, because this is the thing. Sometimes people can create things to be used later. And then they'll say, oh, well, we heard you on tape say this. This is why let me tell you, when you're dealing with anything such as this nature, you have to be careful and you have to make sure that you correct. I don't care if you cut them off. You need to make sure that is corrected. You need to make sure that's corrected, because later on, that could be used against you. And then you say, well, that's not what I said. That's not what I was talking about. No. In today's time in which we live on the internet, people are chopping everything. They chopping and screwing everything. They editing all kinds of stuff. And this is a very important thing. Dr. Brown is very respected. He has a big following. So it's important it behooves you, beloved, to make sure. That's why you don't be zealous to get into a lot of things if you're not prepared and equipped to deal with. Everybody not equipped to do these type of things. I don't care how much zeal you got. I don't care what kind of zeal you got or what kind of zeal you have. Make sure that you're not running into these things. That's why I tell brothers who got zeal and they want to run. I'm going to go tell my pastor that he need to be teaching this. And I'm going to tell okay. You just not came into the truth. You got all this zeal. Run up on your pastor if you want to. He going to tear your behind up with Paul. And you're going to embarrass yourself. And you're going to embarrass whoever you bring with you. Dr. Brown been doing this for 45 years. Some of these brothers been doing this a long time. And for somebody young and zealous to try to run up on these folks, you need to make sure you know what you're dealing with. It's a difference in sitting online listening versus getting in the seat. Everybody gangster till they get in that seat. I done seen it happen so many times. You get in that seat, and all of a sudden, you can't talk. You done forgot everything you've been rehearsing because it ain't in you. It ain't in your spirit. And you done forgot all the stuff. You not listening. You trying to remember. You trying to, well, if he say this, then I need to do this. All that stuff you try to prepare for. It's a spirit. The spirit responds and answers, not yourself. Okay? And I'm not saying that Brother Carl did that. I'm just saying, I want y'all, it's important for us to learn from certain things.
That I categorically differ with you historically and based on scripture, but we're having a discussion to try to understand things, and I want to give you the opportunity to do so. We come back, and maybe we can talk a little longer. I'm curious to know how you feel, and I'm not asking now because we've got a break coming up, sir, but I'm curious to know how you feel about some of the extreme racist comments that we hear from Black Hebrew Israelites. And we understand there's racism everywhere. There's racism in all parts of the world.
Okay, so we understand, okay? We understand. Michael Holloway, you crazy, bro. We understand that there is racism everywhere. There are people doing all these things. But the thing is, we have to understand that this type of conversation, at the end of the day, these type of conversations become vain and fruitless. This is why Paul was talking about that type of stuff. Don't be engaging and getting in quarrels and things about these things, because it's a waste of time, especially when the Father and when the Holy Spirit have showed you who you dealing with. Now, I watch a lot of brothers, and I can tell, I can discern who's genuine in conversation and their approach. Others who I know have an agenda, I don't even waste my time with. I don't care how much you call me. I don't care how much you mention my name. I don't care how much you call. There's certain things and certain people. Now, of course, you have to deal with certain things when people try to slander you. That's a difference. But when people are trying to draw you into conversations, man, I'm so past that. I'm resolved in who I am. I'm trying to save people from hellfire, man. I'm not getting caught up in all. If you want to learn historically, okay, let's learn. If you don't, so be it. Because here's the thing. If you keep the commandments and you accept Christ as your Savior, you knowing you Israel, it ain't going to matter. That will be revealed to you later. This is who you was. If you want to learn your history, if you want to learn your history and you learn your history of who you are as an Israelite, but yet you still walk around wickedly, you're going to hell. So at the end of the day, we have to make sure we understand the importance of that and don't waste our time entertaining foolishness. Learn who you are. Great. Now what? What's next? Now how do you apply what you've learned? Okay, you don't want to know that you're Israelite? Okay, fine. Now let's look at doctrinally and see at the end of the day, you still have an obligation to follow the culture of the kingdom. Christ brought culture. He brought the culture. He brought what it looks like to walk out the law, giving us an example and a demonstration of what that looks like. So at the end of the day, there's a kingdom cultural obligation to walk, to talk, and to live a certain way. If you don't care about learning you're Israelite, fine, keep the commandments. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be judged based upon, did you keep my commandments? Did you do what I told you to do? And here's another thing. Those y'all, all these brothers folk want to run around and the first thing come out your mouth, you know you're Israelite, don't you? Show me anywhere in the scriptures, because also Paul also now dealt with those who lost their identity too. But Paul's message to them wasn't, hey, you know you're Israelite, don't you? That wasn't his message. There's nothing wrong with understanding the history. It's nothing wrong with that. But let's keep it into perspective. What's going to get us in this kingdom that's coming? Because the kingdom got to be in you first. Don't get caught up in all of this crazy conversations and all this other stuff with people who don't believe anyway, historically. Okay? Let's keep rolling.
And it's ugly, we renounce it. But I'm just curious to hear how you feel about that, because some of the anti-Semitic lies, some of the junk that comes against us, it comes against me as a Jew, is that we're not really Jews. And
that's not the worst. That's not the worst thing, man. Come on, man. See, that's what I'm saying. Anti-Semitic. So you don't want us to say you're not a Jew, but you want to call us black Hebrew Israelites. You can't have it both ways. You don't like to be not called a Jew. We don't like to be called black Hebrew Israelites. You want us to respect that, but you don't want to respect us. See, that's what I'm saying. That is hypocrite. That's hypocrisy. That is hypocrisy.
we're not really descendants of Israel, and therefore the promises aren't ours or anything like that. So this seems to fuel some of it. But I want to hear your response. Okay, I want to get it from someone who's looked at this. Thank you.
Judah mourn. First of all, again, talking about the Jews. They said Judah what? Mourning. They said the real Jews will be in mourning. These crackers ain't mourning over there in our motherland. They run the Diamond District. They run the banks of America. They in league with America. They got armies and jets. They fight when they get hurt, man. They not mourning. But the real Jews are in mourning. Why? Because they in captivity in America. Because they the first fired and the last hired. Because they oppressed in the ghettos full of crack and heroin and marijuana. And because they don't get no justice by the white man.
My guest, Carl Albert of Israel Entertainment Doctrine. Carl, when I've thought of Black Hebrew Israelites, and again, you're using different terms in your own description, that's what I've thought of. That's what I ran into in New York City. And I renounce racism of any kind, whether it comes from whites, blacks, Jews, Asians, doesn't matter.
Because that's what you want to believe. Every Israelite ain't running around here like that. And here's the thing. There's no excuse. You have enough apologist friends who've encountered balanced Israelites who ain't running around here talking like that. You have enough connections to know, Dr. Brown. But when you hear Black Hebrew Israel, that's what you think of. That's what you want to.
Do you have a comment on that? Does that reflect your own sentiments?
No, my sentiments is I use the name Jesus. I use that term because I use the KJV Bible. And now dealing with Jesus himself, he was not a racist, even though he said he's only son to the lost sheep of Israel. And when I say Jesus, I'm talking about a black Jesus, not a white Jesus, which I'm stating that the Israelites were black, or Jesus would be considered a Negro today if he was walking around in America. But, you know, at the end of the day, when they make those statements, it only shows hurt, pain, and racism due to the fact that we have been under the stress of racism and slavery and things of that nature. So when one don't understand the purity of the doctrine and the curses of Deuteronomy 28 and how we was going to be enslaved and how to get out of it, you know, then you have those sentiments amongst those that, you know, have been fed a doctrine of hate, which most are. I don't teach it. I don't perpetuate it, nor do I agree with it.
All right, and Carl, when you mentioned the law, how do you relate to the law of Moses?
I relate to the law of Moses is that it's the written law, but Jesus, the prophet like unto Moses, brought us the spiritual law, which Paul tells us we have to basically leave the letter and go to the spirit. And that's when one can be a Jew no matter what, when they're one inwardly, as Paul saying Romans 2 in the very last verse.
Period. The interview should be over. The interview should be over right there. The interview should be over. There should be no more questions because Carl gave him the answer by the Spirit. It should be over. He told him straight up, I don't agree with that soundbite you played, and here's the reason why. We keep the commandments through Christ. We preach the gospel to everything breathing, and we let the Most High sort them out. Period. End of discussion. It should be over. Not one who is an Israelite outwardly, but you have to be an Israelite inwardly, meaning the kingdom got to be in you before you even walk into the actual kingdom that's coming. That response should be every Israelite response. You want to go on somebody's channel? You want to go on somebody's interview? Start out with that response and end it. What else we got to talk about? What else do we can move on from there. What else do you want to talk about? Because you can't talk about that. Kills the conversation from the get-go. Stop playing with these folks and go straight to the jugular. This what you want to know? You want to know my position where I believe when it comes down to salvation? Here it is right here. What else you got? First 5 minutes, kill it. Don't entertain them. Don't bring out no historical facts. Don't do none of that. That is the statement that kills everything. Shouldn't be no more discussion.
To grab my Bible for that.
I've got those verses right at the end of Romans 2, especially 27 to 29. Okay, so you're saying that in the spirit. And then do you believe in the concept of salvation or being born again?
What do you mean? Why are you asking him, do he believe in the concept of salvation, being born again? He just told you. Again, it continues to lead up. There shouldn't be another discussion after that. Unless you have an agenda.
I believe born again is Jesus being the firstborn from the dead, showing the process of the curse that if you eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you should go back to the ground from which you came, which is death. And resurrection is truly the rebirth, going into Mother Earth and coming out again. That's born again. The spiritual aspect is when you renew your mind. When you renew your mind, then you get on the milk, the fruit, and then get to the meat. And those are the two processes that I consider born again.
All right, so is it a matter of having your sins forgiven by the blood of Jesus and knowing that you're right with God, or is it more something that as you keep the law?
Through Jesus Christ.
All right,
through Jesus Christ and his sacrifice which I just kept the Passover, which shows forth that when you eat the bread and wine and you keep that in commemorate of his death and his shedding of his blood, as Acts 20 and 28 say, the church was purchased by God, which I believe Jesus is God, purchased by God, and that's pretty much my sentiment.
Got it. So, in what way do you feel that the church that preaches Jesus, believes in the scriptures, but says we're not under obligation, say, to keep the dietary laws, do you think those people are under God's judgment or risking hell punishment?
Well, as it says, as many that under the law should be judged with the law, and as many without the law will be judged without the law. But most of those are under a delusion of Roman Catholic dogma or Catholicism. So therefore, they listen to preachers today that follow that same sentiment of the Roman Catholic Church, and therefore they come up with that understanding, and they tell everybody pretty much what they hear from their preachers because they don't study the word for themselves.
All right. And Carl, there are DNA tests that indicate that Jews like me, I say like me in terms of, you're claiming that I'm an Edomite, so I'm just making this clear distinction, that those that have lineage that goes back to Aaron, that are priestly, many have the last name Cohen, actually DNA tests confirm that we go all the way back to the priestly tribes in Israel. That there is a genetic marker that joins these people together. It can be traced back to the Middle East. It can be traced back millennia. That goes completely against your theory. Have you ever looked at DNA related issues?
Well, if we deal with the genetic marker or the DNA, Esau and Jacob was twin brothers. So why wouldn't our DNA match at some point in time, seeing that we come from two twins and the same two parents or grandparents from them sons? So we will have similar DNA at some point in time. So to make that argument based totally on DNA is kind of fragile.
All right, and just last question with our time here. So the tribe of Levi, then, that I'm saying that the priestly tribe goes back to, and can clearly be traced by DNA back to the Middle East. Who do you say the tribe of Levi today is?
I don't say it's no one. The only thing I recognize is that the 12 tribes of Israel has been scattered throughout the four winds of heaven, and that they will not come back together as the whole nation until the Messiah, Jesus Christ, come back and set up on the throne of David and bring down all principalities, more definitely the fourth beast that's mentioned in Daniel in the book of Daniel, and also in Revelation when it talks about in Revelation 13 and the great horde that sits up on many waters that's riding up on the beast. When they taken down, then Israel will be put back in power because our king, our high priest will be him sitting on the throne of David, regulate the whole world.
All right, tell you what, stay here. If you can stick around just a couple more.
Nah, we're gonna move on past this. Now let's deal with this whole Levi and this whole DNA thing. Okay. Now I'm gonna go to an interview that Dr. Brown did previously. Now you can watch this whole video. All right, this video, I just took a clip of it. It's put it on my YouTube channel. It's Majors 1 on the B.O.O.M Church. I took just one part of the clip, but this clip is on his page. The full interview with Harry Rosenberg. Now, Harry Rosenberg is Jewish too. Dr. Brown respects Harry Rosenberg's knowledge. Okay? Respect Harry Rosenberg's knowledge. Now, let's deal with this whole thing about DNA. Since he wants, see, he's against the narrative, or he's against that black people, okay, outside of the Ethiopians, even though Ethiopia was the whole continent of Africa was known as Ethiopia at one point in time. He's against that black people, or some black people, shall I say, outside of Ethiopians, are not descendants of the Israelites, and that he is. Now, let's deal with this because Harry Rosenberg, okay, is going to say something, is going to talk to him about this whole conversation a year before, because Michael Brown didn't really have really full information on it. One thing I can say about Harry that I do respect about Harry. Now, sometimes Harry will, kind of, fib a little bit. All right. But Harry been pretty consistent with saying Negroes in America are Israelites as well. Okay. Based off DNA and based off descendants. Okay. Based off the descendants and based off from as well. Okay. So Harry Rosenberg, who has been in the field amongst other, when I'm talking about in the field, I'm talking about amongst other Israelites in America as well as abroad. So Harry Rosenberg have the experience and also being around them. So that way, he's going to teach Dr. Brown something. All right. So I want y'all to pay attention to what he says to Dr. Brown. All right. So let's go here. You can watch the full. This is like 5 minutes, but you can go on there and look and just type in on YouTube, Dr. Brown and Harry Rosenberg or Rabbi Harry Rosenberg, Dr. Brown, and you'll be able to see the interview in full. All right. For those of y'all who want to check it out, it's like 45 minutes long, but I just took like 5 minutes because I respect your time and all that good stuff. All right. So let's look at it here.
Let's move out and let's move into Africa. What do you have there?
Well, for sure.
Okay, now we're dealing with Africa. I want y'all to listen to this. Okay, listen to what Rabbi Harry Rosenberg says. And he don't have no intent of pretty much, he don't have to say this, okay?
Two main places you'll see today. We're going to get back to Afghanistan for a little bit, but the two main places, and which I mean Afghanistan, the Silk Road, but in Africa, the two largest tribes in the world today are one in Afghanistan, the Pashtun, and one in Africa. You do have the Ethiopians, you do have the Lemba tribe.
Stop right there. The Lemba tribe, they were the first tribe to get the DNA testing done because people did not believe when they went out there, okay? They saw that they were keeping the customs to the T. It's like, ain't no way in the world that these people can be keeping the customs like this to the T. I'm talking about to the T. It's no way. Not only did they have written tradition, but they had oral tradition, and their oral tradition validated historical evidence as well as their written tradition and their practices of the Hebraic culture. Okay? So you can Google that. I mean, go on YouTube. There's DNA information and videos and all kind of other stuff for that too as well. There are books written about it by different professors and scholars, okay, as well. All right? But listen to what Harry says. So we know that Lemba have been verified, okay, which I do have in my DNA, okay, family on my family tree that are Lemba, okay, that are Lemba. Also Yoruba as well as Igbo, okay. So let's keep rolling here. And the Luya from Kenya, all right. All of these are the same Bantu people. So let's keep listening.
In South Africa, we know we had the Cohen gene, the priestly genetics.
Let me go back.
You do have the Lemba tribe in South Africa, who we know we had the Cohen gene, the priestly genetics, the Y chromosome.
So let's stop right there. Listen to what he said. We know. Now this was last year. This is before Dr. Brown interviewed Carl. Okay. This was before he interviewed Carl. All right. So he said, Rosenberg says, we know. Okay. We know without a shadow of a doubt, customary, genetically, oral history, and written history. All of these are factors that line up with what the Lemba, okay, and as well as others, okay? So let's keep listening. Y'all pay attention. Y'all stay focused. I told you, don't get off track. Let people post scripture. Some people come on here, they ain't even heard the conclusion. They don't know what we talking about or none of that stuff, okay? They just jumping on. They hear we talking. They see Hebrew Israelite, and they just go crazy. So y'all just pay attention. Don't worry about what people saying, okay? Forget it. Don't worry about that, all right? Those of y'all that really want to learn and see what's going on, get information for yourself, okay? But let's look at this. Rosenberg said, we know this. that, remember, Dr. Brown told Brother Carl, okay? He told Carl, he said, you know that my forefathers have the Kohen gene to be priests. Harry Rosenberg just said, we know that the Limba, as well as there's other tribes, there's other videos that Harry talked about. Okay, you can pull up, because Harry he's probably the only Jewish person that has worked in the urban field in America, as well as done interviews on a lot of different channels, a lot of different people that have respected people, as well as him being a rabbi in the Jewish temple. Okay, so I want y'all to let's keep listening to this. All right, so the Limba have it, and there's also others, but let's keep going.
Amongst almost 10% of them, we have different tribes all over. But
stop right there. Let me go back.
The Limba tribe in South Africa, who we know we had the Kohen gene, the priestly genetics, the Y chromosome, amongst almost 10% of them. We have different tribes all over, but the largest is the Igbo tribe of Nigeria.
Stop right there. Listen to what he said. I want y'all to hear this. Okay? I want y'all to hear this. He said, we got a lot of African tribes all over that carry the same Kohen Y chromosome gene or DNA marker, because their conversation is about Africa, Western Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, and other parts. Okay, they're focusing on, even though the Middle East, many know right there, Northeast Africa, but let's just focus on not focus on Northeast Africa. Let's just deal with the West area and some parts of Central Africa. Okay, there are several DNA tests have been done on different tribes, and it has been proven genetically. That's why I say, when you get it, when you finally get your results and all that stuff, I never needed it. The results wasn't for me. I was already resolved. The results were for people if they ask me, and I just got to pull it out. Or if they try me, it would be, oh, you ain't this, you ain't that. And if I feel the need to really do it, I just pull it up. Okay, here we go right here. What you got to say? Then what the next thing they would say? Oh, well, don't get caught up in genealogies and endless genealogies, and there's neither Jew nor Greek. You asked me to prove to you, and then after I show you scripturally, you don't believe that. I show you genetically, then you come throwing another scripture at me. Oh, well, there's neither Jew nor Greek. Let's not focus on that. We're not focusing on endless genealogy. This is what Paul said. See, it's a never-ending battle, all right? And you're going to find yourself pulling your hair out because people really don't want answers. They really don't want truth. They really just want to continue to push a narrative. Okay, so let's keep moving.
Numbering 40 million people, who largest is the Igbo tribe of Nigeria, numbering 40 million people, who self-identify as being from the children of Israel. They're doing 8-day circumcision out there. They have a lot of customs, from Jewish weddings to Jewish mourning that you'll only find amongst Mosaic law. And they are going through their own political struggles right now. There was a genocide on them in the 1960s. Millions of them were killed. Israel actually broke the blockade. But why the Igbo are most fascinating is because they're actually returning now to Judaism. There's, I think, 48 synagogues now in Nigeria who are from the Igbo, and that number is growing rapidly. The leader of the Free Igbo movement, if you Google, his name is Nnamdi Mahdi. He wears a talit, a prayer shawl, to his court appearances. When he goes in for treason trials, he's wearing his talit. But the Igbo made up a significant percentage of the transatlantic slave trade.
What did you say? What did you say, Harry? Let's go back and see what did Harry just say? Now this is him and Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown ain't. Why isn't Dr. Brown refuting Harry? Here's the thing. Why Dr. Brown is not refuting Harry? He refuted Carl. Calm down, Minister Church. Calm down. Don't feed into the narrative now. All right? Let the Most High have his way. You're going to always have folk come in and try to throw things off. Okay? Let's stay focused, brother. I know you, AKA Peter, with the sword. Let's stay focused. Harry, listen, Dr. Brown is not refuting Harry on anything. He's probably actually surprised that Harry is saying the things out of his mouth that he's saying. Okay? Listen to what he says about the Igbos during the transatlantic slave trade, who also have DNA markers that link to the limber. All right, they have the Y chromosome. Let's keep rolling.
Mahdi, he wears a talit, a prayer shawl, to his court appearances when he goes in for treason trials. He's wearing his talit. But the Igbo made up a significant percentage of the transatlantic slave trade. So a lot of the blacks that were taken to America on the slave ships actually had Igbo blood in them. And we see now Igbo are self-identifying as from the tribes of Israel. So if you look at America today, you'll see a lot of celebrities actually from the African-American community claiming Hebrew roots. Reference would be Amari Stoudemire, high-profile basketball player, rapper Kendrick Lamar, who's, got, I don't know, maybe 1 billion views on some of his stuff. These are people who are influential, and people look at them like maybe they're crazy. Like, how do they have any ties to the tribes of Israel? Then all of a sudden, we see the actual ships that brought him here coming from the exact place in Africa where it's an Israelite hotbed.
Oh, man. Come on, Harry. Harry, you don't have to slap Dr. Brown around like that. Be nice, Harry. Now, see, when it comes from us, when we say this type of stuff, they be like, oh, you're just trying to be a culture vulture. You're trying to take these people's stuff and all this kind. Listen what Harry said. Dr. Brown is not refuting or stopping Harry in no kind of way at all, because that's his brother, okay? And his own brother is saying this stuff. So this is why I keep telling y'all, you just have to be resolved, okay? You just have to be resolved, okay, in who you are. Be resolved in who you are. The Most High gonna have witnesses and people out here saying, okay, you don't have to fight these battles to try to prove anything to anybody. The Most High, his spirit is going to declare in the earth, and people are going to be witnesses, and they're going to say this. That's not your job to run around here and try to force people to get it. It's not. It don't waste your time.
High-profile basketball player, rapper Kendrick Lamar, who's got I don't know, maybe 1 billion views on some of his stuff. These are people who are influential, and people look at them like maybe they're crazy. Like, how do they have any ties to the tribes of Israel? Then all of a sudden, we see the actual ships that brought him here coming from the exact place in Africa where it's an Israelite hotbed. So this is going to be also an interesting piece of the puzzle.
I recently became friendly with a black Messianic Jew.
Listen to Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown did not refute one thing Harry said, but he told Carl, I don't believe you. I don't believe your narrative. I don't believe nothing. That's why I told y'all Dr. Brown is a very educated man. I respect his education. He's even debated James White, on certain things. So I won't disrespect his level of education. That's why I say Dr. Brown knows better than this. Okay? This interview, what I'm showing y'all, okay? This interview, what I'm showing y'all, is before he interviewed Carl. See, this interview right here would be the interview that I would play against him. I wouldn't even talk to Dr. Brown. I would just play this video and say, so what do you have to say about Harry? What are you going to refute Harry? Before me and you even get in any type of conversation, why don't you refute your own brother? Refute Harry. Debunk Harry, what Harry's saying. So I want y'all to listen to what Dr. Brown say, man. Listen to what Dr. Brown said.
I recently became friendly with a black Messianic Jew, and he was educating me on the black Hebrew Israelite movement. So I just knew that as some kind of cult that says the white man is the manifestation of Satan, and that they're the original Israelites, and Jews like you and me, we are fake Jews, etc. And this felt, but I didn't have a lot of information or history because I'm so much outside of that community. So this fellow's historian, he's well educated in these areas, and he's going through the whole history where they came from in Africa and identifying as black Jews or black Israelites. And then he said that these then began to expand it to say all blacks are the real Israelites and the whites are not. So, but it started with folks that genuinely had this heritage, and he'll tell me, oh yeah, this is how we pronounce this in our community. We have this tradition. So you're saying then?
Listen to what he said. I want y'all to check this out. This is why I told y'all. You got to be careful. See, when you're dealing with certain things in apologetics, not only in apologetics, but also when you're dealing with things, period, in the practical world, okay? Video will condemn you. Video don't lie. Harry told him before he talked to Carl. Not only that, but he said, yeah, I have a close friend who says that they're the real Israelites. And they have all these traditions and they have all these different things like that. So, he told me, he educated me that the people that you see out there on the corner preaching hate and all these other things, okay, that they're just a spinoff of guys who took and ran with this history of them being the Israelites, and they created their own thing and became a hate group and all of these things. So Dr. Brown knows that there's a difference between balanced spirit-filled Israelites and those who are out there acting a fool. But he comes with an interview a year later with Carl and act as though, oh, when I see and hear Israelites, all the only Israelites that I know and think of are the ones that's cussing people out and screaming racism and all these other things and da-da-da-da-da and all this other stuff. Like he didn't a year before have a conversation with Harry Rosenberg, who actually gave him the rundown. And then he confessed out of his own mouth that I have a friend who's an Israelite that can trace his history back, that gave me the practices and the customs and all these other things, who told me there was a difference between a crazy Israelite and a balanced spirit-filled Israelite. And yet he talks to Carl as though he don't know anything. This is my problem with Dr. Brown and those like him. Because you know it's a difference. And yet you continue to push the narrative because you want to get rid. Who are you working for? Are you working for the Most High? Or are you working for somebody else?
As far as you can tell, you can trace footsteps that can say, here's how we got from here to here, or is it simply a matter of, well, why else would people identify like this? How do you figure it out?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I mean, the Igbo tribe in Africa claims to be the descendants of the Judeans who fled into Egypt at the time of Gedaliah. This was also around the time of destruction of the temple. There was a verse, my memory's not the best, but there was a verse that says they fled into Egypt and they stayed there and they didn't come back to Israel. So they claim to be the travelers of those communities. Now, one of the mysteries of the tribes we're going to get into when we speak about the Silk Road right now is, are these the descendants of 100,000 Israelites, or are they the descendant of one Israelite? And the answer is almost irrelevant because there's no way to really understand or fully know that at this point in time. So let's go back to the Silk Road for a second to discuss this identity thing. And we'll go back to the African Americans because, and their hate for the white people, which I had a debate with someone who hated white people. He told me my grandparents enslaved his grandparents, and I owe him money. I told him my grandparents were farmers in Europe, so we had to get on the same page. But there's a lot of trauma from the transatlantic slave trade and from what happened. It's all very fresh, so we have to be very diplomatic and sensitive about them. I understand why they would hate a white man. That makes total sense to me, as far as understanding neurology.
All right, so we're gonna end it right there. All right, we're gonna end it right there, man. Okay. All right, what's going on, family? I blocked that brother earlier. I tried to give him some time I tried to give him the opportunity to stay on, but sometimes, man, just like our people, just like Israel, we got, you got some Christians that's buck wild too, don't want to listen. Ain't nobody on here talking that craziness that he talking. So I did block him, eventually. But nah, man, that's all, man. I just wanted to show y'all this because I saw this video. Again, I follow Dr. Brown. I follow Harry Rosenberg. I follow a lot of people in the Christian apologist community. I follow a lot of people in the Hebrew Israelite community. I follow a lot of people on both sides, man. And that's the issue. What's going on to my brother Zion, brother Harold Zion Edwards? Grace, peace to you as well, brother. Love you with the love of Christ. And so, man, here's the thing. At the end of the day, again, we have to stop arguing this type of stuff, okay? We have to come to a maturation of, okay, our common ground is Christ or Jesus or Yahweh Shai or Yeshua or whatever you go by, because there are Israelites that still say Jesus too, okay? We have to come to a common, okay, let's reason, all right? And here's the thing, most spirit-filled reasoning, because there's a difference between reasoning and debating. There's much more clear understanding that one can get if you reason together off camera. Everybody want to reason, everybody want to debate because everybody want to prove their side. And everybody want to prove that this person is wrong on this side, and here's why. Can we go back old school? Where you talk off camera. Especially those who are, I ain't talking about other folks. I'm not talking about foolish contentions, okay? Sometimes there are things that need to be done publicly. But there's also things that also needs to be done behind closed doors. Okay, you can get a lot of more things done, okay, behind closed doors. Some people need to be rebuked openly. But when you're dealing with reasoning together, let us do that behind closed doors. Because what happens is it makes room for the Spirit to be able to bring clarity. But when we're unpublic and we got our buddies cheering us on over here and the brothers got their brothers cheering on over there, nothing never comes about it. Nothing never comes about it. But you get an understanding and you can hear one another. And that's important. Hearing is very important. And you can understand each other's position and say, you know what? We have more similarities than we have differences. So let's get to the point where I can understand what you're saying. And then when you explain it to them, oftentimes it's like, man, okay, oh, I thought it was one way, but now I see what you're saying. I see that's scriptural. That's biblical. Now my brother Harold Zion on here, he was performing at James 1-1. I've been knowing him for over 20 years. Diehard Christian, but me and him can sit down, we can talk, go back and forth, not arguing, reasoning, listening, connect the scriptures, and come to find out, wait a minute. So this your position. Now, I can't take his position when it comes down to the commandments and grace and all that. I can't take that and apply that to every Christian. I have to go by Christian to Christian basis. Just like a Christian should go by Israelite to Israelite basis. The Israelite you're talking to, deal with that one. Then once you hear what he's saying, then the next one you encounter, don't take the same presupposition of the one you dealt with previous who was acting a fool and apply that to everybody. That's not how it works. You'll miss valuable things and you'll miss what the Spirit is trying to reveal. Arguing ain't done nothing for nobody. But dialogue, reasoning, sitting down, hearing each other's perspective in the Spirit. Coming to the table, when you come to the table reasoning, you have an open heart. And if you have an open heart, your spirit man is open to receive what was being talked about. That way you can get clarity. Because ultimately, all of us who are Messianic, whether you Christian or whether you Israelite, we all agree that Christ is the Savior. So what is the issue? The issue is ain't nobody sitting down and listening to one another. Everybody want to prove. If my Christian brother say something that's facts, I have every obligation. If he's right, I have every obligation to receive him. I have every obligation if he's right and my Israelite brother is wrong, I have every obligation to say, you're wrong. Because the Most High ain't no respecter of person. And if I say I represent him, I can't be that. This ain't about who's right and who's wrong. This is about choosing the kingdom side. We have to listen because the Most High is trying to get something to all of us. The devil is after us all, especially if you say you believe that Christ is the Savior and he's the only way. He after all of us. So at the end of the day, sit down, talk to your brothers. That's why I have sit down with brothers. I'll get a Christian brother and an Israelite brother together, sit down, and we just talk. Go over scripture. See what's going on. We can get an understanding. That's what it's about. And you'll come to find out you'll win your brother like that. You will come to find out that you can win your brother that way. Because it makes room for the Spirit to work in both of your hearts. So, beloved, I hope this helped you. I hope this really blessed you. I hope you all be able to get some clarity on this. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Also, you can go to youtube.com/It's Majors and the number 1, not O-N-E, but 1, ITSMAJORS 1. Subscribe to the channel, all right, as well. And man, listen, you'll be able to keep up with what's going on. We have a lot of things going on and a lot of brothers. We're going to be working on some more things with some more sitting down and reasoning and getting together with a lot of our Christian brothers and bridging that gap to get an understanding of things and whatnot. And grace to you all, man. Blessings to you all. I'll be keeping you guys posted with a lot of things that's going on. Again, being able to sit down, talk, get some perspective, and it's going to be a beautiful thing. It's going to be an awesome thing. So I keep y'all posted with things that's going on with B.O.O.M Church and myself as well. So I love all of y'all with the love of Christ, all my Christian brothers and sisters, all my Israelite brothers and sisters. I love all of y'all with the love of Christ. Grace, peace, and many blessings to you all. Have a shalom day. All right. And know that the Most High loves us all and he's trying to get something to us. He's not trying to take nothing from us, but he's trying to get something to us. But we have to be able to sit down and listen to what he's trying to say to us. All right. I love all of y'all with the love of Christ, man. Shalom to you all.